Mod, or modulo, is a very simple, though often misunderstood little math node. It is, however, incredibly useful, so getting a good idea of how you can use it will help you out in constructing your own networks. Now, the simple statement of what it does that you'll see in any number of places in various forms is basically that it divides two numbers and gives the remainder. Sounds pretty simple. Even good old Wikipedia says, finds the remainder of division of one number by another. So surely we'd assume, right, that if we had two numbers, say, 71 and perhaps 3, we divide one by the other, 71 divided by 3, and we get the result 23.6667. And you kind of think, okay, fair enough, but what's all this stuff about remainders? Is that the 0.6667? If you try it out, of course, 71 mod 3, you get 2, and this is sort of where a lot of people get lost. The reason for this is actually kind of simple. When they say the division of one number by another, in the case of modulo, they're not talking about this kind of dividing one number over another one. Rather, what it does is this. We've got 71 here, okay? Imagine this is a collection of 71 blocks. I've got a big block of 71. I start dividing it down by taking away little chunks of 3 blocks at a time. I'm not dividing it by 3, I'm dividing it up into 3s, you see. What eventually happens is I get down to the end of the 71, I'm left with 5 blocks, I take away the last little chunk of 3, and I have a remainder, which is 2. That's what mod does. Takes one number, divides it into chunks the size of the second, and tells you how many are left over at the end. If you take a number that is divisible by the second, so of course I've got 3, let's just say 9, you get a remainder of 0. So in the one capacity, we can think of modulo almost like a logic node, whereas logic nodes have the options equal to, greater than, less than, and so on and so forth. Modulo can be thought of a logic node that asks the question, is this number divisible by the other, to produce, of course, a whole number. And it can go a step further and say, if it is not, then what is the remainder on top of the next smallest, closest number that can be divided by this number? So used in such logic and math-style networks, modulo is a very useful function and can be used in a huge myriad of ways. One of the other little side effects of what it does, that is a much more common use for your average user, is the fact that it essentially lets you pick out every nth number of a collection of things. Because of course, think about it, here we've got 3. Every third number, that's 3, 6, 9, 12, and so on, every single one of those is divisible by 3. Every fourth number, 4, 8, 12, 16, all of those are divisible by 4. So we can use it to start taking counts of where something is in a collection. Okay, so here's what we've got. Bunch of instances of just a simple little box shape and their surface editor. Right, let's punch up the old VPR. And there we are, they're all just plain coloured white. Okay, we're going to grab a gradient here. At position 0, we're going to be, let's say, white, and then at position 1, we're going to be orange. So since we're looking at 0 to 1, we're only going to be concerned with 0 to 1 results coming out of mod. Obviously, the result that comes out of mod can be any number smaller than the divisor that is used, b. But the 0 greater than 0 nature of the output is the decision between can be divided, cannot be divided. So that's what we're going to use in this particular setup. So I plug mod into the input and the colour to the colour, and of course at the moment absolutely nothing happens, we just get 0 because there's nothing being divided by nothing. So what I'm going to take is the instance info here, take the ID for each instance, plug it into A. What this does is take the number of each instance and ask, can it be divided by, in this case 0 at the moment. In the case of ID 0, it can, and in the case of all of the others, it can't. And this is what we get. If we want every other block to be orange, we enter 2, and we get every other block, every second block. If we want every third, punch in 3, or sorry, every third block to be white rather. Every fourth, every fifth, this is a 5x5 array, so of course we get a single stripe. Every sixth gives us a diagonal. And there you go, we can work in that manner. Here of course I've got it applied to instances, but you could also use it applied to clones. You could start using the DP's particle info of course if you're trying to colour or shade hypervoxels in a particle system. Lots of places where you can use modulo. So I hope that gives you a little insight into this node, and you'll try to look for opportunities where you're able to use it within your own networks.